And amid the outbreak, Europe's leaders are meeting today, not face-to-face, virtually, in fact, by video conference, as they discuss how to respond to the pandemic. And the Europe editor, Nicholson, joins me now. Signs then that Europe's leaders are still kind of struggling to try and find some common ground on the coronavirus crisis.
As is so often the case, Stuart, unfortunately, yes, this is an unprecedented public health crisis. And of course, it comes with unprecedented costs. And this is going to be a major focus of today's European summit, which you rightly say is going to be held by video conference call for the third time in its history. So there are two aspects to these costs: how to pay for what is going on right now, supporting healthcare systems, supporting the economy and workers, and an exit strategy for Europe and the Eurozone, how to get everyone onto firmer footing once this crisis has passed. So in terms of the amount that each country has to put into this, that's one of the major bones of contention, because of course we talk about Europe and the Eurozone as being one entity, but each country is in charge of its own investments and also its own borrowing, its own debt levels. So there are some massive contrasts. For example, we have Germany has been able to pledge 1 trillion euros for its coronavirus plan, whereas Italy, with the highest death toll in the world at this point, has only been able to put forward 25 billion euros. It was debt-laden and on very shaky ground economically before this crisis even began. So these discrepancies are one of the reasons why 9 of the European leaders who are going to be going into that conference today, they've signed an open letter calling on their counterparts to start talking about something known as Eurobonds, a way of sharing the debt burden, putting the full weight of all of the Eurozone behind whatever borrowing is done, so that poorer countries, such as Italy, won't be paying more for that money on the international markets. It is an idea that has come up before, you remember during the financial crisis, but it's always had the dampeners put on it, particularly by the wealthier countries, the more frugal countries traditionally, such as Germany and the Netherlands. There will also be discussion today about a new bailout mechanism for member states who need help, although, again, there is a lot of disagreement here.
And Catherine, meanwhile, the European Parliament is going to try and hold a session today, despite, of course, the entire continent being locked down.
Absolutely, yes. Every single member state has some kind of lockdown measures in place now, but the European Parliament holding a one-day plenary session. Usually these are held over 3 days. There are votes on all kinds of subjects, but just 3 topics are going to be voted on this Thursday. They are, firstly, the issue of so-called ghost flights. The European Commission wants to make it that airlines no longer have to maintain a certain number of flights in order to keep their slots at airports. There are huge environmental and economic concerns about this. There's also an issue of mobilising 37 billion euros for member states to put into their healthcare systems and other areas right now, and also changing the rules of a solidarity fund, which was set up about 18 years ago in the wake of flooding around Europe. This is a massive fund that's usually available for member states to apply for money to help to deal with natural disasters. At the European Parliament, they're going to be voting on a proposal to change the rules so that public health emergencies can also be taken into account. So all of these have got quite broad backing, including from the larger groups in the European Parliament. But it's going to be a very different day from normal. Remote voting, for example, they say that they found ways of making it secure, but it's very new territory for everybody, and we'll have to wait and see how it works out.
Nicholson, our Europe editor, joining us there. Thanks very much.